Hi everyone, this is Cooking with Kurt. Today, my husband Donald and I are going to show you how to make Yema caramel ensaymada. This is a Filipino-style brioche bread stuffed with a creamy Yema caramel and topped with edam cheese, or as we Filipinos call it, queso de bola.
We've previously shown you how to make an ube ensaymada using our hands, using various kneading techniques. But today, to create the ensaymada dough, we're going to be using a stand mixer, right? If you don't have a stand mixer, be sure to check out our ube ensaymada video to learn how to make this by hand.
We recommend making this recipe over 2 days. Brioche dough requires a very strong gluten structure, and a lot of mechanical force is required to promote that elastic gluten structure in the ensaymada dough. Luckily for us, we now have a stand mixer to generate that force. To start, take 3 large eggs and 10 tablespoons of unsalted butter and let them come to room temperature. Cut the butter into 10 pieces. In a microwavable bowl, add in half a cup of milk and heat it in the microwave till it reaches a minimum of 180 degrees Fahrenheit, about 1.5 minutes. This deactivates the whey proteins in the milk, which may hinder gluten development. While the milk is hot, add in 1 tablespoon of granulated sugar and whisk it in to dissolve. Continue whisking the milk to help it cool down faster till it comes down to 105 to 115 degrees Fahrenheit. When it reaches that temperature range, add in 2 1/4 teaspoon or 1 full envelope, which is 7 grams, of active dry yeast. Whisk the yeast to dissolve into the milk. Let it proof for 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, it should look frothy, like this. Then in the bowl of your stand mixer, add in 2 3/4 cups of all-purpose flour, 2 tablespoons of granulated sugar, and 1 teaspoon of salt. With the paddle attachment, mix this on low-medium speed to mix the dry ingredients. Stop the mixer. Add in the 3 large room temperature eggs and the yeast mixture. Continue mixing with the paddle attachment on low-medium speed just until all the flour is moistened. Stop the mixer. Use a spatula to scrape dough off the paddle attachment and scrape down the sides and bottom of the bowl to make sure there's no dry flour. Cover this with plastic wrap and let it rest at room temperature for 5 minutes. This allows the flour to absorb moisture before kneading it. After 5 minutes, attach the dough hook attachment and knead on medium speed, about a level 5, for 5 minutes. After 5 minutes of kneading on level 5 speed, add in the pieces of room temperature unsalted butter, 10 tablespoons total, 1 piece at a time, waiting for the butter to get incorporated before adding in the next piece. About 30 seconds to 1 minute between each addition of butter. If you see dough getting stuck to the bottom and not getting kneaded, stop the mixer and use a spatula to unstick it. It will gradually stick less and less the more butter that's added. Similarly, if you see a piece of butter stuck to the sides and not getting mixed in, stop the mixer and manually add the butter back onto the dough. It can be a little labor-intensive having to unstick the dough and butter from the bowl, but nowhere near as labor-intensive as kneading brioche dough by hand.
I remember, we're still thanking our parents for this stand mixer.
Exactly. Once all the butter has been added, turn the speed up to medium-high, about level 7 speed, and continue kneading the dough for another 5 to 10 minutes till it forms a cohesive dough, has a soft and elastic texture, and passes the window pane test. Take a little dough square and stretch it till you see it being transparent but still stretchy and elastic. It should look something like this. Oil a clean bowl. Form the dough into a ball. It should feel very soft to the touch, and put it in the bowl and cover with plastic wrap. Let it rest at room temperature for 1 hour. Then refrigerate the dough overnight, approximately 12 to 16 hours. This will slow the fermentation and chill the butter, which will make the dough easier to shape.
Next, we're going to make the Yema caramel filling. Now you can make this on the first day and put it in the fridge overnight, or you can make this on the second day and let it come to room temperature. Take a small bowl or measuring cup, add in 1 cup of heavy cream and 1 egg yolk. Whisk these together to combine so that the egg yolk is fully mixed in. Let this egg cream mixture come to room temperature. Take a medium saucepan and heat it over medium-high heat. Add half a cup of sugar and 4 teaspoons of water. Do not stir the sugar. Gently swirl the pan to make sure sugar is heating evenly. Bring the sugar-water mixture to a boil until it turns into a copper amber color. Be careful not to let it get too dark, otherwise it will have a slightly bitter burnt flavor. Turn off the heat as soon as it turns light amber. It will continue to darken with the residual heat. Then, while vigorously whisking, very slowly add in the prepared room temperature egg cream mixture and vigorously whisk it in. Be careful of the hot steam from the initial addition of egg cream. Adding the egg cream mixture very slowly will prevent the caramel from seizing up. But if the sugar does seize up into a solid ball, don't worry. Just keep whisking and it will melt again. Add 3 tablespoons of unsalted butter and half a teaspoon of salt, and mix it in to melt the butter. Turn on the heat to medium-low and let the mixture come to a boil. Starting when the mixture starts to boil, continue boiling down while whisking constantly for 10 to 12 minutes until the Yema caramel mixture has thickened. Make sure to whisk constantly during this time, as the caramel may separate if you don't. Transfer to a clean bowl and let the Yema caramel mixture cool completely to room temperature. It will continue to firm up as it cools. At room temperature, it should have a nice spreadable consistency.
After your dough has rested in the fridge overnight, a minimum of 12 hours, you're ready to form the Ensaymada buns. You can use either egg tart or brioche molds like this. Ideally, the mold should have a top diameter of between 3.5 to 4 inches. The ones we're using today have a top diameter of 3.8 inches.
If you don't have these molds, you can also just form the buns and place them on a sheet pan lined with parchment paper. They just won't have the corrugated pattern at the bottom traditional to an ensaymada.
If you're using molds, generously butter 12 egg tart or brioche molds and arrange them on a sheet pan for easy handling. The dough should have doubled in size from when you put it in the fridge. Turn the dough onto a clean surface. The dough should be quite greasy from all the butter and shouldn't stick too badly on the counter. If you find that it is sticking too much, just put some oil on a paper towel and lightly grease the counter. Divide the chilled dough into 12 equal pieces. I just use my hands and eyes to approximate the same weight and size of balls. Depending on how much you pinched pieces and transferred dough from ball to make them as even as possible, your balls might be uneven. So take each ball and lightly press down on the ball with the palm of your hand while doing a round motion. It's sort of like making a sphere with Play-Doh when we were kids. This tightens and smoothens the skin of the dough. Do this with all 12 balls. Put some oil on a paper towel and lightly grease your rolling pin. First, use your hands to lightly press the dough into a flatter shape. Then, using a rolling pin, roll it out into a rounded rectangle shape, about 5 inches by 10 inches in size. Spoon a heaping 1 tablespoon of the prepared Yema caramel filling onto the middle, and then spread it into a thin layer. Be careful the Yema caramel doesn't come too close to the edges of the dough. Then from the long 10-inch end to the other long 10-inch end, tightly roll the dough back over the filling, forming a log. Just know that the log may stretch and contract as the dough is very elastic. Once the log is formed, stretch the ends slightly to create tapered ends, like this. Then tightly coil the log to form a spiral bun, tucking the end underneath. Place this coiled bun into a buttered egg tart mold. We're going to repeat this with all 12 portions of dough. Loosely cover the buns with plastic wrap and let them proof at room temperature for another 3 hours.
While we're waiting for our buns to proof, we're going to prepare the topping. Take a small bowl, add 4 tablespoons of room temperature butter and 4 tablespoons of powdered sugar. Mix them with a small spoon till it forms a smooth and creamy consistency. Set this aside. Then take about 4 ounces of edam or gouda cheese. Today we're using edam cheese, which is the Western equivalent available here in the US of queso de bola in the Philippines. Grate them on the sides of the cheese grater using the small round holes with long strokes like this. We want the cheese to form long and thin strings. Do this until you get about 2 cups of finely grated edam cheese. Set this aside. After letting them proof for 3 hours, the ensaymada buns will have doubled in size and look very puffy. Preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, then prepare an egg wash by adding in 1 large egg and 2 teaspoons of whole milk. Whisk this together till smooth, then lightly brush the top of each bun with this egg wash. We're going to bake these in our preheated oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 18 to 20 minutes, or until the ensaymada buns are puffed up and golden brown. If you have a thermometer, the buns are done when they read about 185 to 190 degrees Fahrenheit in the middle of the bun. Be careful not to overbake your buns. When the internal temperature reads past 200 degrees Fahrenheit, the inside of the ensaymada will start to become a little dry and it'll start to be a little crusty on the outside, which, some people might prefer, but we like our ensaymada to have a soft and moist texture.
Once out of the oven, let them cool slightly, about 10 minutes. Then use a knife to carefully unstick them from the sides and bottoms of the molds, especially where Yema caramel may have leaked out of the dough during baking, and transfer them from the molds onto a cooling rack, and let them cool on the rack for an additional 20 minutes. Then using a bread knife, smear the top of each bun with a very light layer of the prepared sugar butter topping. Finally, top each bun with about 2 tablespoons of grated edam cheese. And there it is, soft, moist ensaymada, topped with butter, sugar, cheesy goodness, and filled with all that delicious Yema caramel. Ang sarap!
Yum!
That sweet, buttery, cheesy combo is so good.
And I love that Yema caramel flavor. It's delicious.
Thank you so much for watching. Please let us know in the comment section below if you're planning to make this Yema caramel ensaymada. Send us pictures of your creations on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Links below. And if you like this video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to Cooking with Kurt.
And don't forget to click on the bell so you get notified when we post new cooking videos. And for our written recipes and more, be sure to check out cookingwithkurt.com.
Maraming salamat!